I want to take a moment to talk to you about RŌL TV, our online video library platform. Whether you've been training for a week, a month, a year, or 5 years, you already know that you need all the tools that you can possibly get and get your hands on to continue improving your skills as you go through the jiu-jitsu journey. And that's what RŌL TV has been designed for. We started this project about a year and a half ago, and from the very beginning, we focus on continuous updates and continuous uploads of techniques that are useful to you. Anything from self-defense to sport jiu-jitsu. Anything from individual drills and techniques to the full concepts and lessons from big players like Sophia McDormand, Christian Woodman-C, and Andres Brunowskis. In addition to all this, we feature workshops, seminars, and events that took place at RŌL Academy. So you have access to all of this at your fingertips. And recently, due to a large amount of requests, we have opened the opportunity for lifetime memberships. No more cancellation fees, no more reoccurring payments, no more subscriptions. One simple payment, and you have full unlimited access to drills, techniques, full concept lessons, and events from big names in jiu-jitsu. How can you beat that? Go to RŌLAcademy.tv, create a free account, take a look what the platform has to offer, and subscribe to continue improving your jiu-jitsu. And now, let's get back to RŌL Radio.
On this episode of RŌL Radio, our guest is an instructor and academy manager at Bushido Jiu Jitsu Academy in Manchester, Connecticut, Rich McKeegan. In 2012, a local tragedy changed Rich's outlook on life, and he made the decision that giving back, making a difference, was his true calling. Starting small, Rich began making and selling patches, with the proceeds going to the victims of the Sandy Hook school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Shortly thereafter, Rich met the father of Dylan, an autistic boy who was one of the shooting victims. This is when Rich decided he wanted to do even more. Rich started the charity Black Belts for Butterflies, with the proceeds going to Dylan's Wings of Change. Now, after 11 charity jiu-jitsu seminars, Rich has helped raise over $100,000 for Dylan's Wings of Change and various other charities across the country. Rich has accomplished so much, both on and off the mats, and he shares these accomplishments and so much more here on RŌL Radio. Here is the inspirational Rich McKeegan.
Welcome to RŌL Radio. And we are live. Number two,
take two.
Yeah, take two. Oh, let's see if this is gonna work this time. Gary, how are you?
I'm good.
I hear you have an amazing story before we start this.
I think it's a pretty good one. Something happened at the academy yesterday, and if the listeners and Rich, our guest today, could put up with me for a minute, I'd like to tell it. We had a kid, an 11-year-old boy, trying the class for the first time, never trained in anything before. Found out from his family that through Ray, our coordinator, that the boy was pretty timid. He sent me a message asking me if I could set him up with the right training partner. And we always have a couple kids that we use for that, right? They're great kids. And that's why we use them. So one of them was going to be Shane, and Alex came in early with his parents so they could sign all the paperwork. He's on the mat. Shane walked in, they saw each other from across the academy, and they were, a mutual, hey, I know you. Turns out they go to school together, so it was perfect. I was like, you're going to train with him today. And Shane had to go back up front. His parents were buying him a new gi. So he went up front to take a look at that. When he came back, he was like, hey, Coach Gary, real quiet, pulled me aside. And he was like, hey, can I train with him today? Can I be his partner? And I said, well, yeah, I was going to hook you guys up anyway. And since you know each other, it's a no-brainer. And he said, well, he gets bullied at school. And I really want to help him through this. And can I do it for him? And I was like, absolutely, no problem. Of course, I didn't say anything to anybody at the time. Hooked those guys up. And man, he always steps up to the plate, but man, unbelievable. It was like I didn't even need to be there. Helped him through warm-ups, through everything. Technique he was great with. we let the kids teach on the last week of the class. They all get up and present and help them through that. And it was really amazing. And afterwards, when class was dismissed, he pulled me aside again and said, "Hey, I could tell he was pretty nervous. Do you think I could be his partner for the next couple weeks, just so that he can settle in?" And I mean, this is Shane, 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, and it just blew me away. And I think it has a lot to do with what we do here and at all the other academies across the country. And it's not coincidental, I don't think, that it happened yesterday when we have somebody like Rich on today, who is giving back in huge ways. And I just wanted to tell that story so that people who don't know what the kids do here can see, because it's not out. To me, it's not about the technique on the floor as much as it is what we're turning these kids into. And just unbelievable story to me of how these kids are treating each other and how good this is for them. So,
I mean, when you told me this story, my first reaction was, I mean, this is mind blowing. Leadership 101 right there. Put others in front of yourself, right? Treat others like you want to be treated. I mean, that's great. Rich, by the way, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. What are your thoughts on this story?
How old is that? You said he's 10 years old.
Yeah, it's our 10 to 14-year-old
class.
Shane's been here longer than I've been coaching. So I would say 3 years.
2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got my son into jiu-jitsu. He's a little guy. He'll be 8 in December. But I didn't get him into it. I mean, obviously I love it. I have passion about it. So I want him to follow in my footsteps. But the main reason that I got him into it is because I've seen the kids throughout the, decade plus that I've been training. I've seen these kids walk in. I've seen the amazing young adults they've become, the way they carry themselves, the way they talk to adults, the way they talk to each other, take care of each other, and just the self-confidence that they establish when they're on the mats. And that's just life skills. And I love hearing stories like that. I don't think we hear enough stories like that. And for that young man to step up like that, recognize the situation, and then take control of it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna help. I'm gonna be a part of it.
Well, I think there's two sides.
I can't imagine how excited his parents are and proud.
Yeah, yeah. We sent his coincidentally, his uncle is our judo instructor, Thomas and I, and I made sure to text him and Shane's father, let them know, gave him the whole story. It was a mile-long text. Said, forgive me for it, but I really felt it was important that they knew,
Well, there's two stories behind this, if you think about it, right? One is the leadership story of all these kids at some point, it doesn't matter of the age, whether they are 5 or 10 or 15, that they step on the mat, and it is an intimidating moment. You walk in a room full of other kids, and all of them trained longer than you have because this is your first day. And it's scary, it's intimidating, it's a million things goes through your head, right? So, and at some point that child who was intimidated turns into this mature leader who will help others, right? And that's kind of how all of this continues going. And if everybody just a little bit did a little bit of their part, that just one smile, one handshake, one pat on the back, this world would be a very, very different place. That's why I really think, as cliche as it sounds, I really do believe that jiu-jitsu changes lives. And it's not that overnight, it's that process of humbleness and stepping onto the mat and going through these motions and talking to people, making relationships and learning jiu-jitsu along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we talk about it a lot where we're here to teach them jiu-jitsu, but I think we're here to teach them a lot more. And it's obviously, we can't take all the credit. We know Shane's home life, but I think it definitely, this is a bigger part of it.
But I think it's intertwined. You have kids who look up to instructors, and it's like, if you have great instructors teaching these kids, they follow in the footsteps. They see the kids around them. They're like, you know what? I want to be better. I want to be better at jiu-jitsu, but I also want to be a better person, better friend. So especially at that young age, if they can recognize these things, it's something really, really right is happening, and he's going to go far in life if he keeps that attitude. I mean, that's just awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
So, Rich, we've known each other. Well, known each other. We've spoken several times in the past, and recently I reached out to you to join us in the conversation here because I personally think you do amazing things. We'll get to that in a moment. Your organization, I think, is mind blowing. As I've been watching it for a few years now. But tell us a little bit of how your journey started. Why jiu-jitsu? Why not something? Why not checkers? I mean, what got you here?
So, wow, it's a long story. So I'll try and
Well, hold on. Like Gary is 95, so his story is by far longer. Okay, so
I only look 95.
I played sports all my life. Played baseball through high school. I played soccer from, it's my father played, so I followed in his footsteps, and I started. As soon as I was walking, I was kicking a ball. Played until I was 30, and then I got hurt. So got taken out from behind, hurt. I'm just like, I can't work. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hang my cleats up. It's just not the right time for me to play anymore. But I'd been a huge UFC fan up to that point. It was a big part of my life because of the fact that I got sober when I was 28. So a way for me to get sober was like I'd get out of work, I'd go home, I'd lock myself in my apartment, and I'd watch UFC fights. And I was like, it kept me at home. I was infatuated with it, had a great time doing it. And it kept me from going out for a good 6 months, which kind of derailed a lot of my habits of going out and drinking and being around negative people. So I sat there and I went back to college when I was 30. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to be working drug and alcohol rehabilitation counselor. And I went back to bartending actually to be able to sit there and go to college during the day and bartend at night. And most people think I was insane. They're like, so you stopped drinking and now you're a bartender? I'm like, yeah.
Wait a minute.
No, I have an old boss. I used to work in the industry, and then I also did draft lines, installed and cleaned the draft lines. And my boss was a bartender in one of the biggest beer bars in the city, and he's been sober for a few years now, and he's still bartending. And
honestly, it reinforces why you don't want to drink when you see the people acting at the bar, and you're like, I'm so happy I'm not doing that crap anymore.
Yeah, I mean, can see that.
You see some really rough characters at the bar.
But doesn't that require a lot of self-control? Like I and forgive my silly questions, but I don't know. I don't have much background or knowledge on that topic, and I'm just curious. Doesn't that require a lot of self-control? I mean, you walking into literally the same room that you could have been on the other side of that table.
100%, 100%. But it was a choice that I made. I sat there and I was like, you know what? I don't want to have the lifestyle of that anymore. It's like I got a little bit of clean time, so they say, and I really liked it. I started to like the person that I was becoming because I didn't like the person I was. So when you recognize that goal is so much more achievable, and you can grasp it, and you get a little bit more. It's a little easier. But this is personally me. I could imagine millions of people in recovery sitting there going, he's an idiot. He put himself in such a bad situation. So I consider myself one in a million to be able to do that. Through that, we actually, I was working in a bar, and a good buddy of mine, he's like, hey, you know what? A friend of mine is getting married. So we're going to do a bachelor party in Vegas, just a few of us. I'm like, I've never been to Vegas. And I'm like, you know what? There's a UFC fight, and it was Chuck Liddell versus Rampage. I'm like,
I watched that fight. Oh yeah.
I think everybody watched that fight.
Broke my heart. And so I went. And the funny thing is, the Bachelor, unfortunately, he never even made it onto the plane. He had some anxiety, didn't want to fly. So we went out. When we came back, my buddy was like, I'm gonna start doing jiu-jitsu. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So he signed up. It was a Hoist Gracie school not too far away. And we would close the bar down, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whenever it was, kick everyone out, clean up. And then he started just like showing me stuff. And the next thing you know, it's like we're kicking the shit out of each other on the linoleum floor, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm having fun with it. I'm like, you know what? It's like, I'm going to try this. And that was it. I walked in, signed up, loved it. I still get to see some of the guys that I first trained with. The guy that I got paired up with, just like the two boys, I'm still friends with him. I still get to train with him. He's at another academy, but that's friends for life. It's like these are people who have made such an impact on me. So that was over 12 years ago now.
Wow.
So, and that
Thomas,
was it too. It was like,
Thomas, do you remember your first training partner?
I do.
Real
remember.
quick on the side. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody whose name? Do I know this person?
He's being silly about this because my first training partner when I stepped on the mat for the very first time was Miguel Torres, and
no kidding.
It was a bad day for me. I love Miguel, good friend of mine, but it was a blur. Like I remember starting, and then next thing I was in the locker room putting my pants on, and I have no idea what happened between.
In between?
Yeah. But listen, this is the beauty about this, I think, is that these situations create a beginning of a lifelong journey for us. And it's just like you're saying, all these circumstances that you found yourself in earlier in their life, your injury and obviously the other obstacles put you in a position of getting that job at the bar. And then as a result of that, you connected with your friend, and the 3 a.m. sessions began. And without any of this, odds of you training are pretty slim, right?
And I also think that without jiu-jitsu, which was, it started to become, as a white belt, that infatuation. How do I get better? And I never thought I was going to be a black belt. It seems so far away and so out of reach, but I enjoyed it. I just wanted to get better. And I really do think that without jiu-jitsu, I think I might have slid back into a negative lifestyle eventually. And jiu-jitsu really gave me something to fulfill my life, as well as make me a better person. Just like those two boys, it really changed a lot of the direction in my life. I see positive people, and it's like, man, I want to be better. It's like I want to be a better person because of this. And I see them, I can be better just like them. So it's fulfilling.
Absolutely. And I think one of the undiscussed or not discussed enough parts of jiu-jitsu is the mental stimulation. It's the fact of the continuous hunger to get better, and this puzzle that's, I don't know about your head, but in mine is like 3 million things going at the same time, and I'm trying to solve these puzzles whether I'm training or not. You have no idea how many times I fell off treadmill because I'm trying to literally drill a technique in my head, endless times. It just
my wife yells at me because when we go to bed at night, I have to have the TV on, because it's like the TV quiets down the voice inside of my head, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, his hand went here. Now it's like, why can't I hit this? Why can't I get to this position? And it's like, I won't go to sleep. My mind is going. So at least the TV distracts my head, and then I fall asleep.
This is
the lights up. Like, I can't.
Then, yeah. This is no joke. This is, I'm not BSing you here. I actually laid down last night, Thomas knows why, on my side, and my forearm was on an imaginary abdomen. My other hand was posted because I can't get flat on my back anymore. I'm not going to be flat on my back anymore. And I was waiting for my wife to be like, what the F are you doing? What are you doing? And no, she didn't notice. And that's how I went to sleep last night. My head on the pillow, on my side. I was even thinking about the angle of my shoulders.
Yeah. Somebody's taking top control.
Yeah. No more, man. No more, man. I'm not getting flattened out anymore.
My wife has been just amazing. We're just two people that were meant to be together, because she's an extremely tolerant woman that deals with all my shit.
Yeah.
I mean, to be a wife of someone that trains jiu-jitsu, it's like you have to deal with the madness. You have to deal with all of their injuries. You have to deal with, the traveling. You have to deal with not being able to tell time. I'll be home at 2, 3:30.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
shit, I gotta get off the mat.
Yeah.
She's an extremely tolerant woman for everything she deals with for me.
Well,
But
good for you. It sounds like a pretty good partnership that you guys have developed, and obviously putting up with you. It's
I still
and
get
jiu-jitsu. You what?
I still get yelled at.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure we all
Yeah,
do.
we all do.
We all
Yep.
do. We all
Yep.
do. But listen, so all this takes you on, you start this journey on the mat. And before we get to your organizations, how is all of this unfolding in the kind of quick recap? You're going obviously from the day one to, up to purple, brown, and so on. How is your journey unfolding at that time? Any obstacles? Because jiu-jitsu is easy, right? It's just
Oh,
sailing.
I can't imagine the amount of obstacles that it's like I couldn't count them. I've sat there and had man, injuries, mental obstacles where it's like, I've never wanted to quit, but I've been down. It's like, man, I suck. I've gone through the slumps. I can't sit there and get, submission, blue belt. The blue belt blues it's there for a reason. I was a blue belt for 4 years. I switched academy at that time. But brown belt, I hated. It's like I put so much pressure on myself as a brown belt that I was a brown belt for 3.5 years. So for
talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind. A lot of people, I think, in general, put a lot of pressure on themselves in the different points of their journey. Some people want to get to that blue and then, maybe sailing later, and some, as yourself, put a lot of pressure towards, when they go closer to the brown belt. What was your story like?
Well, so when you step on the mat, you look around, you gauge, especially when you visit an academy, and you look around, you're like, oh, white belts, white belts, white belts, cool. Oh, some blue belts. You're like, purple? There's purple. And then you look at brown belt, and you're like, ooh. It's like brown belts had this little bit of a mystique. And it's like they were badass. If you're gonna roll with the brown belt. So I always had this idea in my head of what a brown belt was. And then all of a sudden I looked down and I got a brown belt on. And it's like, I suck. I'm not sure if I deserve this. It's like, I was big into footlocks throughout my purple belt. So I absolutely sucked at passing guard. It was just a giant hole in my game. And I looked at other pieces of my game and I didn't feel that I amounted to what a true brown belt should be.
Where did you get the idea? Where did you get the perception of true brown belt? What does that mean?
All in my head. I kick myself now looking back. It's like, and I would tell anyone that's in the same position for purple belt or brown belt, it's like, it's your journey. It's your time. You have fun, enjoy it. It's going to be a limited amount of time that you're going to be there, be it, 2 years or 4 years. So why put all that pressure on? It's like, what's the point? And everyone's so unique in their game and their journey and how they play. It's like, why put that pressure on? But it's all in your head because other people don't give a shit. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, no one's going, oh, Rich, he was terrible. He came to visit our academy. He sucked. He was terrible brown belt. You might have one or two people. Who cares though? Do they matter in your life? No. It's like the pressure you put on is all on yourself. It's all in your head. I got passed up for black belt. There was 2 other guys that I came up with through purple belt, brown belt, and now they got promoted to black belt, and I was told, you're not ready. I was like, what do you mean I'm not ready? I'm the same as them, just as good as them. I said, no, they're not. And it put things into perspective, and it was awesome because they got their black belt on Wednesday, and I went home that Wednesday night after promotions, packed my bags, and I flew to Belgium for a 24-hour roll-a-thon for autism. So it just got me away from everything, and man, I don't know what it was, but I came back and I just had the best outlook. I didn't care anymore. I got those little chirping voices out of my head. And for that last year in my brown belt stage, I had the best time. I enjoyed myself. I think I progressed farther and more quick than the first 2.5 years with putting all the pressure. And it's just, I got a lot better. I filled holes and my confidence got a lot better. And then I got promoted to black belt after. But that 1 year was huge for me. And I think holding me back was sparked such an energy into my jujitsu that I would have, I can't imagine where I would be if I gotten promoted to black belt with the other guys. I
Yeah,
think,
and I think that's a huge. I think you talk about something that's huge in jiu-jitsu in particular, especially in the earlier stages of the journey when people compared themselves. First of all, one set unrealistic goals for themselves. That's one. Two, they compare themselves to somebody else. And all these questions start arising where, well, he's a white belt, but he's doing barambolos and I don't even know what barambolo is. It's like, so and then two is like, I want to be a purple belt by X amount of time, or I want to do X amount of things. And like, it's sometimes it's really challenging, I think, to switch the mindset and just simply enjoy jiu-jitsu. Just enjoy it. Enjoy.
as a coach, it's a very, very hard thing to, it's almost like being a parent and your parents telling you when you were 20, hey, if you do this, you're stupid. If you do that, hey, you don't know anything. As I equate the same thing as being an upper belt looking at younger belts. I had brown belts telling me when I was a white belt, dude, you're long-legged. It's like you'll be great at triangles, work the fundamentals, work the basics. Arm bars are great. Nah, rubber guard.
Yeah.
Like, stupid. And now I'm doing the same thing. Now I'm like, hey, listen, the fundamentals are key. But I think a lot of these guys now, up and coming, it's changed so much since we started. Social media has taken over. There's so many outlets for jiu-jitsu. There's so many people that are, they're posting videos, downloads, weekly moves, daily moves. You go to someone's Instagram, they break down their own, fight sequences. There's so much being put out there. People are progressing, so fast nowadays. But I think you still need to kind of like reel them in and be like, you got to take your time.
Well, the
Enjoy.
question is, are they really progressing? Because one will say, well, they are learning more information and they are learning faster, but is the quality there? I remember when I was a white belt, we literally learned 10 moves. That's it. 10 moves. And we repeated them, God, like freaking 50 billion times. Like I was sick and I was tired. Like I got to the academy, I was like, there it goes again. That was my attitude, but I didn't know any better. And I was too stupid to quit. I said this to this day because like, I just stuck around. But like, that is what shaped my mental state to what it was today. If I had YouTube at my fingertips 20 years ago, I don't know what would happen. Right? Like, I call it a, YouTube vortex, because once you start clicking, it's like, it's impossible to get off.
We say Sensei YouTube.
Yeah.
That's a YouTube, yeah.
Listen to Sensei
I was,
YouTube.
I was telling somebody else this literally a week ago or so. It's like you start, I legit YouTube something, and it was not related to jiu-jitsu, completely not. I just YouTube something. I wanted to see something. And then, because of my searching history, jiu-jitsu shows up on the guys. I was like, oh, tick. And then tick.
Yeah. How
And
many
tick.
hours later?
And then literally like 25 minutes later, I forgot what I originally was searching for. Like, now, I can only imagine as somebody who's just starting and beginning that journey, that mental stimulation, the visual stimulation from all these videos, it must be mind-blowing. So the question is, are they really progressing?
I'm still blown away by all the stuff out there. I think it depends on the person. I think some are progressing faster because of the fact that there is so much information. The breakdowns are so much cleaner. I mean, before my time, I heard about the VHS tapes. I know what VHS tape is, but I even like some of the old books. It's like what I bought. It's like you miss so much of these small little nuances in a move But now these guys are breaking down everything and they're explaining it with such clarity. You know, I think they are progressing because they're learning the small details. Hoist Gracie would come and he would teach this pass. And I fucking hated this pass because I get triangled with it every time. And finally, after like a year, I gave up on it. Like, this pass sucked. And finally, someone's like, yeah, well, he doesn't teach about the elbow onto the hip. But why not? It was like, that's part of it. And it's like, hey, you don't teach everything. I was like, well, that's stupid. But that was his pass. And I watched him pass guys like butter, no problem. But now I go back and I'm like, all right, you know, you see some of these things and you're like, I figured it out now. But, you know, I think the other thing is that there's so much going out there that it's bringing more people into the academy, which I think.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I wonder too, they're watching all these crazy things. And, you know, are they learning how to escape from out? Are
No.
they, you know, they're not. And, you know, like the brown belts told you, and you're telling people now, and I'm still learning it, is just stick with those fundamentals, you know, stay with it, because that's what's really going to get you better.
There's always the question of like, you know, if I'm going to go on YouTube, who do I look for? And that's such a hard question. So I'm always like, you know, look at fundamentals, try and search up those. Those are, you know, your I hate the word basic, because in jiu-jitsu there's really nothing basic about it. But I always, you know, bring them back to Hadra Gracie. It's like guard pass, front guard pass, top side control, cross collar.
Close collar. All day
like,
long.
And he does it to everyone, you know? So how do you sit there and it's like someone that great sit there and say, you know, the fundamentals don't work? Watch some videos.
Yeah. So you go through this journey and you encounter some unusual events in your life. Let's switch gears a little bit. And this is the beginning of the organization that you're running today. And I know you're not really big on being named as a founder, but you know, the credit is credit is due, right? So why don't you tell us what exactly happened, how all of this started?
Anytime I talk about this, it's so important to me, but also very emotional. I start out with, you know, me and my wife, you know, because of my earlier life, you know, 20s and doing what I did, I kind of got sober. So I kind of started life over again, you know, going back to school, doing everything. And so I met my wife and I was 30 at the time. So we started off later. We had some hurdles and challenges getting pregnant. So when we did get pregnant finally, it was awesome. Yeah, it was such an amazing time, and we had gone through so much to get to that point. So we were scheduled for a C-section. So we went in that morning, and it was like, you know, incredible. You know, we're so excited and nervous, and finally get, you know, the thing that we wished for the most, to have a child and be parents. Now we're finally getting it. So we went in, had my son Jack, and it was early on that early in the morning, December 14th, 2012. And then there was 17 women being what's it called? They were leaving the wing,
being discharged or moved from the maternity ward. Yeah,
being discharged out of the maternity ward. So we had to sit there and wait for them to be discharged so that we could get a room. So we were in the recovery room for 3 hours. So I walked out, and her parents were there, and, you know, I was talking to them. I saw everyone around the TV, and it was kind of weird. I was like, you know, what's going on? And there was a shooting, and, you know, that was the news. I was like, oh man. It's like, well, it's a school shooting. Devastating, you know. So it's horrible. Well, it's in Connecticut. Like, what? And at that point, the media didn't have any answers, and once again, they just jump on stuff as usual. But there was one shooter, and he was killed, and that was the news. So I thought to myself, it was horrible. Very, very just terrible thing to happen here in Connecticut. And so I went back, and then when we finally went to our room, and you could just tell like the demeanor on the nurses and the doctors. They kind of like suit up, with their facial expressions before they came into the room. And that day, it just climbed. 2 kids.
Yeah. 20, right?
Yeah.
26 people total, I believe, 26, 28. Yeah. And I know exactly where I was that day as well. Our kids are pretty much the same age. My daughter's 2.5 months older than your son. My mom was not doing well with breast cancer, and I took my daughter, my baby girl, to see her. And there it was on the news, and it was another one. And it was, up until that point, probably the worst, maybe still is. And yeah, so I know I can only imagine the highs and the lows that you had that morning.
To sit there and have, the greatest gift you can be given, and to know that, how many parents are out there with their kids not coming home. I remember I was working about an hour away from the hospital we were in, and that was one of the shittiest drives back to work from the hospital. A few days later, I stayed in the hospital with my wife, and my son for a few days, and then I had to go back into work, check things out. I was doing outreach for substance abuse and mental health counseling, and I was like, I gotta do something. It's like, can't just sit here and do nothing. So I got to work. I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, nothing. I'm like, we need nothing. They're like, there's nothing for us to do. I'm like, we gotta do something here. They're like, no. It's like, it's out there, has nothing to do with us. So, and that kind of pissed me off. So on my way back, I was like, all right, I gotta do something. What can I do? What can I do? And for a few days, and then it kind of dawned on me. It was like, okay, well, I'd heard about, raising money to help families. I'm like, all right, well, it's something small, something small I can do somewhere. And that's where the whole idea of like, all right, you know what? The best people I know are on jiu-jitsu. It's like they're caring people, they're giving people, they want to support each other. So you know what? I'm gonna reach out to them. So through some, ideas, that's where I came up with, it was a black patch with a ribbon, and the ribbon was a black belt, and it just had Newtown on it and the date. I was like, you know what? And it's like, I talked to one friend, she helped me design it. Talked to another friend, he made the patches, and we were off and running. I started a Facebook page. I didn't know what was going to happen. And first day, kind of started climbing, more people like, yeah, I'll buy a patch. It was $20 patches. And man, there was one night I'm sitting in bed, my phone just blows up. Text, call. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it was Clark Gracie, and he stepped on to fight Mendez on Metamoris.
Yeah.
On his gi. And it was just like,
I mean, that had to be heart melting.
It was, honestly, I was kind of like in disbelief. I was like, I can't believe this is travel, this far. And at the time, one of the biggest stages of jiu-jitsu, at Metamoris, when it was, doing well, was huge. Everyone was watching it. So to get that, I don't want to say notoriety, but to have the impact that people are going to see it was great. Mm-hmm. And at the same point in time, a woman from Newtown had called me, and she was like, hey, where are the patches? What are you doing with the money? Where is it? And she was kind of scoping me out a little bit, because there had been some people that had taken advantage of the situation. And she was kind of seeing what I'm like, you train. I don't want any money from you. I'll send the patches to Newtown. And she said that she had known one of the families, and she was friends with them. So she introduced me and got a meeting with Ian Hockley. and Ian lost his son Dylan that day, and uh, that was one of the hardest meeting face to face with anyone. I'm sitting there and I'm bawling, and it's like I'm bawling, and you lost your son.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I emotional, and I feel like shit for being like this. And he just put his hand on his shoulders, like, we cry. It's okay. What we do. And that kind of settled us down. We started talking. I'm like, I want to help. Not sure how, but I kind of have some ideas. I kind of want to throw it around, and like I'm thinking of doing a jiu-jitsu seminar. And it had never been done at that point that I know of, where it's like not just one person or two. Let's blow the doors off. Have 10. He was like, I love it. And him and his wife had started a foundation, Dylan's Wings of Change. I was like, we'll take all the money and we'll donate it to Dylan's Wings of Change. And he's like, that's great. Thank you. And we started a friendship. And then I was driving home one day and I was thinking of all the things that Ian had told me about. And Dylan was on the spectrum. So, Dylan's Wings of Change was to help children on the spectrum with autism, different disabilities. So I was like, what were the Dylan love? And had the story about the butterfly with Dylan. He was their butterfly. He loved the color purple. He would draw purple dots. And it was at his funeral, his mom, Nicole, had stated, when talking about how the impact and the butterfly. And all these years, it's
rough. Take your time.
A butterfly flapping its wings halfway around the world can cause a hurricane of change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm driving, I'm like, that's it. There it is. I'm like, black belts for butterfly. So I pull over on the highway, I break out my phone, open one of my apps, and I took a little bit of the logo from Dylan's Wings of Change, which is Dylan, and going on my apps and designing, and then I designed the heart, created the black belt. I'm like, that's it. And the logo has changed a little bit with the lettering, a few add-ons, but the heart with Dylan hasn't changed. And that's been the heart of everything from the beginning, from inception of what it is. I told Ian and he loved it, and it's just, that was it. We had the first seminar, had 10 black belts, amazing, 5 from Connecticut, 5 around the country, and they flew in. And I had no idea what it was going to be. I tell everyone, like, this is going to be really good or just terrible. I don't know. But it was incredible. It was just special. The emotions of everyone, it was like, they just kind of like, this is us. And, everyone was very raw in how they spoke and how they talked, which then all of a sudden kind of seeped into the crowd and then all the participants, and they kind of, took off that little bit of a, say their gi of being, tough people. It's like, and the emotions really got everyone, and it was just super, just magical. And afterwards, it was kind of like sitting back, and it was a lot of work, but it was just like, I can't believe that happened. And people already were like, dude, when's the next one? When's the next one? I'm like, I didn't even think of doing another one. I thought it was the one thing.
What was the time between obviously that event at the school to the point of your first seminar? Just to create a timeline of how quickly all of this escalated or start growing, exploding.
The patches themselves was in the first month after the shooting. Within 6 months, I'd met Ian, and the first black belts for butterflies was less than a year of everything happening.
And in today, up to today, how many of those events you have successfully done?
We raised over $100,000, and we donate it to other charities. We sit there and we take the money, and if we're in Connecticut, the money goes to Dylan's Wings of Change. When I go to other states, I sit there and I look around, I talk to different nonprofits, and nonprofits that aren't getting the funding from state or funding from other big corporations. I find the smaller ones that can really use the money. They're making an impact in their community, and that's where we donate the money there. So I think I can't even remember right now. I think we're on 11 or 12 events. Right now we're at a little bit of a standstill, kind of, with events because of COVID and flying, the restrictions. But we had an extremely generous offer. One of the black belts, Tony Joffrey, who's a great friend of mine. He lives in Newtown. He had 3 children in the school systems when that was happening. He's a lawyer, and his law firm stepped up and they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to do all the nonprofit work and get all of that done for you pro bono. So they've been working on that during shutdown, which has been great. Talking with them, just emailed them the other day, and things are a little bit slower, but they're still working on that. So now it's kind of like the organic from one event to number 11 or 12, and it's like where we've gone from it. And now I never expected all of that, but now when we become a nonprofit, it's like there's going to be so much more capability to help other people, funding. It's going to be super interesting to see where we go from here.
So when this idea sourced, in your head originally in the very, very beginning, did it even cross your mind that this could grow to what it is today?
No, not at all. I actually feel.
So what was your goal then? I guess my question is then, right? Because you wanted to make a change, right? You want to help.
I think that there a lot of people in this world, the way I look at it is like, there's good people. There's great people in this world. And some people don't know how to, they want to do good things and they want to make a huge impact, but they don't know how. So they'll get behind things. And that's amazing. They're going to step up, they're going to get behind it. And now instead of 1 or 2 people pushing that car, you've got 100 people pushing that car. But then there's, I think for me, it was all by chance. I think it was just something that chance that we got pregnant and luck. And then that turned into having the same day. You could say faith, something happened that kind of came down and pointed at me and said, you know what, you're going to make a difference here. From everything that, my early 20s and late teens and early 20s, where I was, to getting sober, to change my life around, and now, to this next chapter in jiu-jitsu. It's like, I could never imagine, if you told me when I was 18, this is what you're going to be, doing when you're 44. Like, no way, absolutely no way. When I was a white belt, if you told me this is what I was going to be doing when you're a black belt, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, no way. Even it's like, I started this when I was a blue belt, the end of my blue belt years. And I have traveled all over. I've met some of the most amazing people. I've got to share the mat with world champions. I've gotten to train with great people. I've gotten to go out to dinner and listen to some of the best stories about jiu-jitsu from people that have been in this community for years. I could never imagine that my journey would have been like this. And now be a black belt, and what's the next part of it? Because it's almost like a new chapter, kind of. So it's like becoming the nonprofit, it's going to be a new chapter. Being a black belt, it's going to be a new chapter. So I don't sit there and put any pressure or any like, what's it going to be next? And this is what I have to do. It is what it is. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm just going to go with it.
Do you believe that things happen for a reason?
I do. I really do. I think I'm here for a reason. I think things happened the way they did. I think in order for me to be appreciative of everything that I have in life, I had to go through all that garbage in the beginning and those tough times. Sleeping on a couch for months, it's like those are the things that finally I woke up to, changed my life around. And it's like I could have gone down a different path, but I think the big guy had a different picture for me. He's kind of like helped me down a path, but if it was given to me in the beginning, I wouldn't have appreciated it. I don't think I would have gone as far as I have right now.
Mm-hmm. That's the interesting part as we as we having these conversations with different individuals and personality from martial arts in general. Gary, wouldn't you agree that everything seems to happen by coincidence, or there's a lot of accidents that take place throughout somebody's life, and somehow the path still aligns to who they are today and what they do?
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the person themselves. I'm very conflicted on a lot of my beliefs, and I think that it might not always be. I don't always think it's laid out in front of you. I think that these things happen, and who you are is what determines the next step or the next curve of the path, or how the road is going to wind. All that, and I think that it speaks to the person a lot more than people give credit to, and so these things happen to you, and how you dealt with them is what got you here, or anyone that's making changes, that's helping others. And so that's kind of the way I think of it. And I think it's really amazing what you're doing. I've talked about this before on the show. I have two nephews that are on the spectrum. I have my sister, their mother gave up her career to work for Special Olympics Illinois. So I know with what's going on this year, especially, take the time if you can to give, to reach out to, because they're hurting. Special Olympics Illinois, they make their money at fundraisers, big fundraisers. They have huge events. Everything was canceled. Everything. The Olympics themselves were canceled. So not just to them, but to anyone, any group you can think of, anything that's close to you, has hit your family, anything like that, please reach out. And if you're on hard times too, and it can only be $5, that $5 is going to go a long way. So thanks for everything you're doing. And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rich, there is no doubt that you've accomplished amazing things in the past just handful of years. I mean, we're not talking about 3-5 decades here. I mean, this is a very short period of time, and you've made tremendous impact on jiu-jitsu community and on the kids who really, really need that help. I am really, really curious why you don't like to be called a founder of Black Belts for Butterfly.
Well, would you have gone to a seminar with a blue belt?
Well, yeah.
Are you putting
so
me
there's
on the spot?
I think there's I think there's a couple of reasons, right? There's probably an emotional reason, and then now that's the practical reason of it.
It's I don't like the limelight. I don't. It's a very hard thing for me because I love teaching. I love being an instructor. Pound some Red Bull. I get out there and man, I'm fired up. I love the kids' classes. I take away, because I spent 20 years in the restaurant industry, the 2-inch stage where you can get up there. You're not a different person, but your personality is amplified. Mm-hmm. So now it's the show. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whether it be jujitsu, whether it be bartending, waiting tables, whatever that counseling, it's that 2-inch stage, and it's the show. I can bring that. I enjoy that. but I also enjoy stepping off because my personality is like, I'm not a loud person. And, when I'm away from that, it's like I'm quiet, shy. So to have that limelight put on me, it's like it's uncomfortable for me, I would say. Uh, the blue belt thing is also where it's like I didn't do this alone. There are so many amazing black belts that have stepped up. There's so many amazing people that have been a part of this. So to take that credit, I feel disrespectful to them because of the fact that without them, this would never have happened.
Mhm.
It's James Foster, Pete Wilhelm, Robert DeFranco, Tony Joffrey, just to name a few of the really amazing people. Christian Woodmansey, he was just at your academy,
Yeah, Christian's a big friend here.
Yeah, good friend of ours. Yeah.
on board, and wait, super important part of this as well. We've had so many different people that have added to this. Emily Kwok, Christina Bartlett. I can't go. It's like, going down the list. It's like just, class act, people after, and they're the ones that help make this because they're the ones that like, maybe you're not coming for autism. Maybe you don't even care about, a donation. You want to come see, so and so, and this is an opportunity for you to see so and so plus, 7 other black belts. So I'm gonna go. Cool, great. Now I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like I can sit there and that's a part of the seminar is that I bring families in. I bring fathers, brothers, sisters, moms who have, family members who are on the spectrum. So now you get a front row seat of what life is like. This isn't a commercial anymore. This is someone talking in front of you. This is my life. This is how it goes. These are the challenges that I deal with. When my child throws, a temper tantrum, is it? No, they're having a breakdown because there's the lights are way too bright. There's too much noise, and it's like, the auditory is coming on.
Mhm.
Well, the old guy walks over and is like, "Hey, man, be a better fucking parent." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Did
Yeah,
this
you have
happen?
no idea. Yeah, it happens all the time, man. All the time.
So even if the person walks away and it's like, man, the next time I see that, I'm like, hey, can I help? Is there anything I can do? Or maybe like, hey, no, you shut up. Okay. They're having a moment, leave them alone. If that small little, impact, then it was worth it. That one person coming, we made a difference. We changed something in their thinking, and now we've done something else. And to Gary, to touch on you, uh, at the end of the summer, I always say, it's like, if you want to continue giving, that is great. We appreciate it. But maybe autism's not what affects your life.
Sure.
Something that does. If it's a police charity, veterans, women's abuse, cancer, whatever ever fires you up in your life and your heart, go after that. It's like I'm not asking that 100% of the people that come to the seminar come and do something for me, but do something for someone. And it's like, the Illinois Special Olympics.
Mhm.
If that affects you in some way, you live in the community, go do something. If you come to Black Belts for Butterflies and, we're in, Washington, but you flew out from Chicago, go back home, do something in your home, do something in your community that's going to, make an impact and be a positive impact because everyone's capable of doing it. I think that's where I end. It's like, I'm just some guy from Connecticut, blue belt, nothing fancy, very handsome.
That's Gary's line typically.
Yeah, usually I throw that one out. Damn it.
It's like I'm ordinary. That's
Rich, I appreciate your modesty, and it's really refreshing to hear the fact that after all these accomplishments, you're still taking this step back and letting others lead the efforts and kind of shine and with the hope that that is really what's going to generate all of this. However, I can't ignore the fact that this is you who really started all of this. So like all I'm going to say right now is if you're listening to the show, you got to go to the website, and we're going to post all of this information in the notes of the episode and on our website and all of this, because I don't know how Gary feels about this, but I personally can't ignore the fact that this is a huge cause. You've made waves, not little rivers. This is just waves throughout the community of jiu-jitsu.
But I think that shows to all the people in jiu-jitsu, all these people that are willing to give their time up, and it's time away from their families. It's time away from their kids to come and teach at an event for a few days. And I try and make it enjoyable for everyone, for, the instructors that are coming to teach. We have a great time. And they have made connections, which is really cool to see. They meet someone they've never met, and then next thing you know, it's like they're inviting someone to do a seminar at their school, and it's those connections have made, and they've become friends, which is really, really, cool as well.
Yeah, those relationships are irreplaceable.
Yeah, it's a community for a reason.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, we have 5 questions for you.
We're going to switch gears pretty hard.
We're going to switch gears kind of hard on this. Okay. And we don't tell anybody about these questions. If you listen to previous episodes, you probably know what we are talking about, but they are fun. The trick is we want you to answer as quick as possible. The first thing that comes to your mind. Some of them are weird. Some of them are funny. Some of them are serious, but Gary will take the lead on this one.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about your 3 a.m. On the bar floor routines, but this is a little more direct. So what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat?
Nerve-wracking. It was definitely, a little out of my element. But being an athlete, I was ready to go. I was excited to get in there. But as something new, and there's that little tweak, I'm gonna get my ass kicked tonight.
Yeah, and you weren't going up against Miguel Torres either.
You don't want me to remind you about your day. On my day.
Yeah. I absolutely loved watching him fight. He was one of my favorites, especially because his striking, his hands were so nice.
I think, and not to deviate from all this, but I really do believe that he's in that small group of guys who just missed the boat. It is right before it got big, and it's right after where it got famous. And it's like his name got big, but he was not compensated yet for all the fights, all the performances that he's done. So, but I know he's doing well. I mean, it's his academy is doing well. So,
Bloodbath fights, and just so good.
You think that was bad? I was there training. Okay, number 2. We don't want to talk about.
Let's move on. It's not about it. All right. I have an idea what this might be, but it could be something different. What has been your most rewarding achievement?
I can't name one. I really can't. Black belts for butterflies has been one. I'll be sober for 15 years. Marrying my wife, getting my black belt, my kids. There's no way I could name one that tops all of those. Like I said, I consider myself very, very lucky to sit there and to be able to sit there and say, hey, you know what, I can't name one, because I've got a bunch that I'm very proud of.
That's great. And he's handsome on top of it, right? All right. Number 3, have you ever wanted to quit?
No, I've had my downs. Someone asked me that a long time ago, and I really racked my brain. There was never a point that I was like, man, this sucks, I quit. No. There's, like I said, I had times I was down, frustrated, times I sucked. But I never thought about quitting. It was just like, I'm just going to keep going and, just doing my thing, and I'll get where I'm going when I get there.
Cool. Yeah, it's your journey, right? Number 4, describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
Overwhelmed. overwhelmed. It
In
was,
what capacity?
well, because it'd been such a long journey to get there, and to finally sit there and like have that achievement, it was like, man, it was uh, the feelings of joy, the feelings of, you know, accomplishment was something that was just, it meant a lot to me. It really did. And a side note for this, and how much I disliked my own instructor.
Uh-oh.
He sat there, and when he was testing me before, he's like, "I'm going to take you to this place where they have rattlesnakes, and we're going to do your testing there before you go to." I had nightmares. Finally, I called him. I'm like, "Man, I hate snakes. You're killing me. I'm not going. I won't get my black belt." I hate him for that. I'll never forgive him.
Thomas, if I ever get my black belt, you can threaten me with going to the gym to lift weights. I'll go play with snakes, but I'm not going to the gym. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good one. I'm good. I'm totally filing that away. I'm gonna pull this off on somebody at some point.
There's a place in Connecticut not too far from us, and there's like the Department of whatever. They sit there and they have to monitor the rattlesnakes. There's hundreds of them all climbing over the rocks and stuff. He sent me videos. I'm just like,
I love it. I love it. Last one.
All right. Last one.
The most important question. We keep tally on this one. Your answer. Look at Gary now. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Your answer is important.
It is. It's very important to me because my ideas on this have changed dramatically in recent months. Do you wash your belt?
Absolutely. 100%.
Son of a, can we have two of the same answers in a row, please?
Why would you not wash your gi?
See, this is the way I used to think. If I'm washing my gi, there's a reason why, the same reason why I should be washing my belt.
Correct.
But we've met so many old school people lately who have they've put aside the mythology of it holds all your
germs and sweat.
Yeah, it holds your germs and your sweat. That's what it holds. So thanks. I'm going back in the other direction. But
Gary got yelled at last time.
But they're talking about the they're talking about the figurative sweat that's in your belt, the hard work that's in your belt, and that's why it looks the way it does. And if you start putting it in the washing, it's up here, right? That's what I think. That's what I think.
Here. No, the only thing that's in your belt after a few weeks is ringworm.
All the special gifts of Jesus.
Yeah.
I look at like, I'm not bringing that stuff home to my family, my kids. Wash your belt. I have no problem telling someone you're not training today because you smell awful.
Cool. We're getting closer back to 50-50. I think we got about 2 or 3 leaning on the don't wash side. We're getting closer to where we need to be.
It's always interesting to hear those answers.
Yeah.
Rich. Hey, listen,
who doesn't, wait a second, who doesn't wash their belt here?
We're not going to throw
out
any
of the
names.
3 of us.
We're not going to throw any names, but you can listen to previous episodes. You'll find out. There's plenty.
From the people here, I do wash my belt, and I have to say I haven't been washing it as often because of the couple of the guests. But I used to wash it after every time on the mat. Every time.
No, I wash. I have 2 belts, and I wash. It's like 1 week, wash it, take out the other belt, wear that for a week, wash it, and I switch back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, hygiene topic definitely has changed in the past 6-8 months, right? So even if you take that under consideration,
I think that's kind of funny because everyone's like, there's all these new things. It's like, no, these are things you should have been doing if you were training jiu-jitsu.
I always say take the COVID out of it, right?
Hey, listen, a side note from all of this. I remember 20 years ago having conversation with people who were saying washing gis is optional, okay? Like, you hang it outside, it dries, you're good, you put it back. Yep. I remember all of this, okay?
We had a guest, and this is going longer than I thought it was, but we had a guest here at the Academy, not on the podcast, who went to a gym in Florida, which will remain nameless. It was an old school owner and instructor, and they shared gis. You would take the gi off, you would put it on a hook, and somebody would come in, put it on, and head out to the mat. That might be one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in any sport. Any sport.
That's gross. That's filthy.
Yeah, that's fine.
We should do it. We should do a little poll on Facebook and see how many of the listeners are washing and how many of them are not washing the gi. Forget about the gis, the belts.
The belts, yeah. Because if you're not washing your gi and you take that poll, and I know who you are, the door will be locked. Thomas runs the place. It's his place, but I think I can step up on this one and say I will lock the door. You will not be coming in here.
There will be some casualties. Rich, listen. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Wash your gear. Wash your belt. Wash yourself.
Wash yourself. Yeah.
Wash everything.
There you go.
Rich, thank you for your time. What an amazing story. I honestly, I'm speechless listening to you, and trying to sponge all of this together from the very beginning of your life throughout your jiu-jitsu journey all the way to the end, what you have accomplished. Please tell us, how can listeners find you? How can they connect with you? How can they donate? When are the events taking place? Where are you planning over in the near future? How to connect with you?
Well, like right now, we're kind of in like this standstill. We're getting a nonprofit, but I'm gonna try and do something. The next event is gonna be in Philly at Christian Woodmansey School. We've talked about it, but it was supposed to happen this year, but because of COVID, it's like it got put on hold. It'll be in Connecticut. We always have an event here at Manchester BJJ, and so as soon as we're allowed to start traveling, and there's no like holds, and like here in Connecticut, like you get off the plane, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Like we can't do anything with that. I do have some things, in my back pocket that, some gear that, rash guards, some shorts, some hats. Those are always, I always want you to feel like you're getting something from me. If you donate, I want you to get a patch or get a hat. I never want to sit there with my hand out and just asking for money. I once again, that's one of the things I have a problem with. If you give me money, I want you to get something back. Plus, the more you wear gear, people talk about it.
Gets the name out there.
Absolutely, branding.
Starter. Our website is bb4bf.org. You can find us there. You can email me. You can sit there and come to my Instagram, and it's like, message me. I will message you back, within a day. Like, I'm really good at that. I love Instagram. I love going through those rabbit holes. So Facebook, you can look up Black Belts for Butterflies, message us there as well. But Instagram is probably the best one. I'm always trolling on there. But just reach out. It's if there's something I can do or try and help, it's like, you get to see my life. It's my kids, my life, my jiu-jitsu journey, plus everything that we do for Black Belts for Butterflies on those sites. I'm kind of like this podcast. I'm an open book, and, it's who I am. So I think that authenticity speaks volumes for the events and, for the cause, and that's what's needed. So
absolutely. Well, we'll make sure to post all the links in the show notes and obviously on our website. So if you want more details, dig in there and connect with Rich. If you want to donate, absolutely, please do to support a great cause. And then, Rich, let's keep in touch. Make sure you let us know what the next event is. We'll post it as too. Whatever we can do to help, we would love to assist and be involved with the great cause of yours.
I haven't been to Chicago yet.
There you go.
There you go. I see an opportunity.
Yep, absolutely.
My wife go to Chicago for work, and she told me she was going to take me, and we're going to go to the Cubs game. But then the place she was going to closed down, so she doesn't make that trip anymore. So
yeah,
Well, if things
Oh.
are all open and everything is good to go, that sister of mine has season tickets, and if your wife can't take
Uh-oh.
you,
I
I'm
see
here
things
for you,
happening
buddy.
for a reason.
Awesome,
Jiu-jitsu,
There you go.
some baseball games, Chicago.
Yep.
Rich,
Cubs
pack up.
only, north side.
I'm in.
All right.
All right,
great.
Rich. Great chatting with you. And we will talk to you soon.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.